It's all coming back to me slowly, slowly. Feels like I saw you, yes.
So, all hail, everyone. I'd like to welcome Johni Holiday from the band Ruff Majik to the special 2023 Dingir Zoo wrap up show. And congratulations, first off, for Ruff Majik, their track Cement Brain being included in our top 23 songs that we played on the show. But before we get into the track, I just want to say thank you, Johni, for joining. Why don't you introduce yourself to everyone who's listening, watching, and making fun of my interview tactics?
All right, sick. Well, thanks for having me. As you pointed out, my name is in fact Johni Holiday, and I sing and play guitar for the band Ruff Majik. We're all the way from South Africa, so it's always really cool to me when I get to chat to people from anywhere not in South Africa. And don't worry about being awkward because I'm the most awkward person on earth to interview. So this is going to be a lot of fun.
Well, I don't know that I'm exactly awkward. I think I'm bad at it.
Oh, no.
So
I think I'm bad at it too, but I also am acutely aware of being extremely awkward. Like right now, this is real weird.
So, I mean, it's awkward for me. So I'll just start off with the disclosure statement. Yeah, I'm a huge fan. And like I just cannot get over that I'm talking to you. I remember the day I stumbled across Ruff Majik and you were a recommendation. And I think the first song that I heard was Swine Tooth. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, and then like, so I thought it was two people who were sharing the vocals. And then when I realized that it was just you, going from one end of the spectrum to the other, like I was just amazed. I was immediately drawn in. So, and you've had a really big year, right? You just got back from a tour in Europe. You released Electric Ram, which is so good end to end. What was the highlight of this year for you, given everything that's been going on?
It was a good year in terms of touring and whatnot. It was really cool, and releasing the album was really cool too. I think like our peak moment of this year was when we were playing Sonic Blast in Portugal, and we had people singing the riff to Delirium Tremors, the end riff. And the more we tried to get off stage, the more people were singing the riff, and we thought that was amazing. So we just kind of we let them sing for a bit, and we were like, "Yeah, this is fantastic." And then at some point, we were like, "We should just keep playing the song, then, right?" Yeah. And then so we just got back into it. That I think for me was like my peak of the year. The whole tour was great, and everything was good this year. But yeah, that was a real special moment. I think. Yeah.
Portuguese, they're such nice people. I loved visiting Portugal. It's such a safe and welcoming environment. It's funny to me that a country that's that beautiful, I mean, they're trying to get people to move to Portugal because like it's just the European drain of people exodusing the various countries. It's so funny to me. It's like I would love to live in Portugal instead of
Dude. No, I love it. We've been there once before. I think it was in 2018, and it was great. But this time it was just, it's cool because you see people there that you've met before, and it's like a quick family reunion. But then suddenly there's like 2,000 more people that I've never met, and I'm like, oh, this is nuts, And it was just, yeah, it was a good time. People they were really responsive, and also I think we always just have a good time. We're that kind of band that it's weird for us because we do tour with a lot of people, and then afterwards they're like, yeah, okay, cool, and now they've played their shows, and now they're gonna go back to their hotel or they chill backstage or whatever, and I'm just like, so fuck that.
I'm hanging out.
Festival in a different country than my own country. I'm gonna go watch bands and get drunk with some people, which we always do. And not only in Portugal, but especially in Portugal, that forms a really good connection with us, and it just uh, fans. And I don't like the word fans so much. It's more like friends, I guess. We just have a vast network of friends at this point, which is really cool. We just go
Oh,
and
that's
have
a
a good
nice
time.
way to put it. Yeah, your
Yeah, I don't know.
extended friend group.
Yeah, the fan thing is makes it weird for me. So I'm like, I just want to hang with people, and that's basically what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we love it in Portugal. This year we had a fantastic. We were supposed to be there for only the one day, but we ended up staying 3 days because we had 2 off days, and we were like, yeah, let's just keep hanging. Why not?
Yeah. Great food, great people. Yeah. So, and your shows, you get very interactive. So I've seen, obviously, I haven't been to a Rough Magic show yet, but hopefully that's going to change soon.
Yeah, we'll make a
Um,
plan.
you can stay at my house. Got plenty of
We'll
room.
take you up on that.
Uh, yeah. So, but I see the clips from the shows and you get in there with them, right? I mean, and then you're right. You post where your fandom, where you're, like jamming on somebody else. So I love that. The there is just such a lack of pretension in Rough Magic and the music, and I think that could generally be said of a lot of the South African bands I've come across.
So, interestingly enough, I had a conversation about this with another. Well, I mean, you've gotten to know a lot of these cats, so the guys from Crash and the Void as well. And we were
Mm,
having this conversation because they're starting work towards getting their first European touring done, and getting the word out there and whatnot. And it's a thing that South African bands have, just in the sense of, I guess it's where we're from. It's partially that um, we don't have a lot to work with from the get go, right? We don't have the best gear and the craziest setups, and so every show is just, you get there and you just have the best time you possibly can, and usually that also includes crowd interaction. And I feel like every band in SA to some degree does that, just because that's what it is. You get to the place and there's the whole, you've got a whole full scene of people, and they're there to support the show, but they're also
mhm,
just like friends of yours. And we all know
right.
that we're not going to have a crazy backdrop um, playing psychedelic visuals, and we're not going to have the best sound. It's not going to be the ideal show, but you make it the ideal show. And
Right.
then what happens is we get over to a place like Europe, and it becomes like a little bit of a superpower, because suddenly we have all this stuff that we can use, and we use it, but
Super boost.
I'm still like, I'm gonna get in the crowd. Why not? Like, I do this at home. I still want to do it now. And yeah, and it's a real fun thing, and people respond to it really well, because I think they don't see as much of. There's a. It's not a disconnect, but there's like a distance between crowd and band usually, and I think South
Mhm.
African bands just don't respect that distance at all. We're just like, nah, this
Yes.
is a rock and roll show. Let's all just hang out. And we had that reversed on us on this last tour, which was amazing and alarming and wild all at the same time. We were playing Traffic Station Festival in Germany, and I was in the crowd at some point, and the bassist was in the crowd. We were all having a good time, and then like we're fixing to play our last song, and suddenly the crowd at this festival just charges the stage. And I'm like, for a second, I'm like, what is happening? Are we going to be murdered? You know,
Is there security? Is security anywhere?
we're gonna get killed in the Black Forest of Germany. I don't know what's happening.
Mm.
But then they just were having a rad time. So they just all got on the stage. Not all of them, but probably as many of them as could fit on the stage. And it was really weird, because we were just like, we've never had this happen before, so we'll just keep playing. And the more we keep playing, the more they were like, yes, this is fantastic. So we ended up playing like 4 more songs. But the
Wow.
crowd was on stage with us, and we were just having a rad time.
So yeah, so by the way, that new Crash in the Void video for Shadow
Killer,
Fiend,
right?
man, that is wicked. So as soon as I saw that, I was texting them and I'm like, this is like straight out of Come My Fanatics,
Yeah,
Electric
dude.
Wizard type of video.
Dude, Marius from Cash and the Boy. Well, all the boys, I'm a big fan. I've met them as they were starting up with the band. But that guy is a genius, man. He's in terms of his production skills, his writing skills, his
Yeah.
vocals. I idolize his vocals. He's just they're powerful, and he made that video. Like the it's crazy to me. And he sent it to me, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should do some work here, or whatever." And I was like, "What the fuck?
It's-
What are you talking
yeah,
about?
it was
Just put it
yeah,
out
it
there.
was
It's
awesome.
amazing." Yeah, no, they're a really impressive band, and I'm really excited because they're releasing the debut album now. It's taken a while, sure, but they've gotten
Hmm.
into the groove, and it will be out early next year. I think I'm not allowed to be divulging dates, but it's got to be in the first half of next year. And I think they might have something in the on the back burner for later in the year as well. So I'm really excited to see that momentum going. And a lot of these bands are just absolutely killing it right now. I mean, you've got guys from Acid Magus or Mages, or I say Magus, but I've heard people say it differently, and I'm always just like, you know, I don't care how people pronounce names as long as they listen to the music. And
Right.
they're doing really cool. I mean, Hope is Heavy was really fantastic. I was happy to feature on that. But other than that,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
fantastic. I saw the vinyl package. They just got it now, like 2 weeks ago, and it's so, so good. It's amazing.
Yeah.
The artwork, everything, and obviously the music as well. And I know they're working on new stuff for next year too, and the folks from We Kill Cowboys as well. Everyone's just pushing and bringing out a lot of new good music. The Tasers, obviously, they're gonna have a killer year as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
the scene is. It took a while to get going proper. Like we've got a lot of really cool bands, and but I don't know. It's just slow, and that's I think due to the um, it's part and parcel of the scene. It things move
Is it
slower
the scene? Is
because
it the location? Like
I think it is
th-
so look, what we have is in terms of the alternative scene fan base, right? We've got a fair amount of people that will come out to a show, and it's all good, but the alternative fan base falls everything falls under it, right? So
Mhm.
uh, I would see the same people at a Ruff Majik show that I would see at a death metal show, like a Volvadinia show,
Mhm.
and it's a problem because there's a lot of cool bands and they're all great, but there's only so much people to go around to come out to shows, and then you're having um, 10 shows on a weekend because everyone wants to play, but we're also not that far apart um, in the area we live. Like we're in Gauteng, and then
Right.
you've got like uh, when was it? Last weekend, I was doing a live feature with As and Megas actually at one of the shows. Really cool show. Lots of people. It was fun, but also at the same time, I think that night there were 6 other shows, and that you just kind of split the crowd. So it's that
Mhm.
there's not that many people, and then location wise, just in South Africa, it's also tough because where we live is called Gauteng, so that's Johannesburg and Pretoria and like that greater area, and then
Mhm.
you've got Cape Town, which is like 17 hours in the other direction, and then you've got
Mhm.
Durban, which is like somewhere between the two, like an 8 to 12 hour drive, somewhere around there, and those are the only places the scene really happens. There's nothing in between, so you can't do a proper tour in SA. If you do,
Right.
you've got like you're basically touring
3
two
stops.
provinces, and you can turn it. I mean, if you work really hard at it, you could probably turn it into 6 stops, maybe 7 stops, but that's it. That's all you
Right.
have, and that's tough. and the closest other place to tour is outside of the country. And unfortunately, we don't have a strong scene anywhere else in Africa. We've got really cool stuff happening in like Botswana. That's where they have those heavy metal cowboys. I don't know if you've checked that
Oh
out, but
no.
that's, dude, you have to check that out. You just type in Botswana heavy metal cowboys on like Google. You'll find them. It's like this really cool scene, and they all dress up like the only album cover they've ever seen is Ace of Spades by Motorhead. Like everyone dresses like that, and it's super sick. It's like this really cool scene, but it's also, it's faced with the same problems, and they've got even worse gears, and their club setups are even worse or whatever. They're passionate, but it's just not enough. Like you can't go there really to tour. And then I mean, like you have Namibia, for instance, and they've got cool spaces and people that are keen for this, but Namibia is gigantic size wise. I think it's a fairly big country. I think in terms of with you guys, you obviously have everything's big over there, but I think like I don't know how big Namibia is. It's just like this really big desert country. It's probably, I think it's, I don't know off the top of my head how I would explain. It's just like
It's
a really
big.
big country. It's probably twice the size of SA, but it only has 2 million people living in the whole country. So it's like nearly, and everything in between is desert, nothing. There's
Right.
nothing happening, not even a gas station. So it's not like we can't tour any of the neighboring countries. So yeah, we end
So
up the
Europe
one.
is your gateway, I guess, to the
That's
rest of the
basically it.
world.
That's honestly, literally the closest place with a scene that we can play. America is a bit further. Australia is almost wholly out of reach at this point. Still, Australia and New Zealand. You would think they would be closer if you look at a map, but they're not. It's
They're
much
not.
longer to get there. It's like a
Yeah.
21-hour flight. It's fuck up. And
And the
then
expense, right? I
yes, very
mean,
much so.
I mean,
And then
so
we could, for argument's sake, get to South America. But as far as I've spoken to promoters and whatnot before that are keen, it is very much uh, comparable to the type of payment and traveling that we're used to in South Africa. And that makes it hard because then you have to do the whole calculation of, okay, but I need to get visas and I need to fly over. So that's going to be a cost. And you need to make that work somehow. So
right.
Europe is the only one right now that, well, it's the easiest one that makes financial sense. And then the US is like next to it. That's like basically what we have for it in terms
So
of where we can
do,
tour.
so do you think that the streaming services have made it easier for people to access the South African music scene? Like, because that's how I stumbled across you. You were a Spotify suggestion to me, and so, and then things kind of exploded once you joined the group, and you were exposing everyone in the group to this amazing South African playlist. And I just went down the list, going after listening to these bands, and I was like, my mind was blown. I had zero idea, which I'm embarrassed about, having like the amazing music that's coming out of South Africa. And I tell everyone, if you are not everyone I talk to, if you are not tracking the South African music scene, you are missing out on some of the best music that's being produced right now, especially the DIY scene. It's just amazing. So, yeah. So, do you feel like it's like you're getting access to those audiences through some of the streaming services,
I
evil
think
as
so,
they
man.
are?
Yeah. Look, that is what it is. But everyone has to deal with that. Doesn't matter what country they're from.
Right.
But yeah, it definitely has had an impact. And the thing is, we've been a bit slow to the punch because South Africa is always late with everything. So I think we only properly got Spotify in SA in like 2018 or something. I don't want to lie, but I think it
Well,
was only in 2018. And then all the bands were like, okay, now we need to be on this. Before that, we were just kind of, we were all over Bandcamp and getting our stuff out on YouTube or whatever. But nobody really knew what we were doing. So I think it's cool now because you can see bands picking up momentum because now we actually like we're on these platforms now. We're pushing it, and it's starting to look better for everyone. But it is cool that it's there and people can find us that way. I think initially our first the way people in Europe found us in the first place was through somebody put one of our first garage EPs up on YouTube, and a lot of people watched it. Listened to the audio, and watched the video that was uploaded, and they got really into it. And I was like, yeah, well, that's really sick. I'm so glad people are getting into it. And every passing year, more and more people have just come to hear of it, and it's sick. It's really cool. Um, because it opens opportunities up for us to get out there and play these shows, but also, like you're saying, it's just people know about it, because
Right.
South African bands have been doing amazing stuff since forever. Like, there's good bands from South Africa that played in the 70s, when we still had apartheid and all that stuff happening. There were cool bands over here already back then.
Hmm.
It just never got out there. It never spread. It never happened in the case of um, like Australia had big bands coming out, and everyone
Yeah.
knows. Obviously, AC/DC happened, and then you were like, okay, maybe that's a flash in the pan, but it isn't, because obviously now you have guys like King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, or the Murlocs and the Merms and all those guys, and it's really cool.
Psychedelic porn crumpets.
Yeah, dude. And they
Oh, like,
all absolutely slap. And it's always been slightly annoying to me. Not because I have no problem with people making it. It's so cool to me to see that happen. But I've always been like, we're also down south,
yeah.
There's not that, but we get along with Australians in a general sense. I feel like people should have stumbled upon our scene by now. And we've been working actively towards it, us and everyone else in the scene, and it does feel like that's happening, and it's cool because it feels like a new frontier. Like, a bunch of people are like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god, there's a South
I
African
know.
scene.
Yeah.
How's
It's
that
blowing
possible?"
people's minds.
Yeah, and I'm just like, yes, yes, it's been going since the 70s, and there's so much cool shit to find.
Yeah. Well, as far as Australia is concerned, and look, some of my favorite bands are from Australia. The psychedelic porn crumpets at the top
Dude,
of that
likewise,
list.
yeah.
They're coming. They're actually coming here. I'm seeing them on May 7th.
Oh, rad.
And yeah, but I think it might be like the criminal Australian element that gave them a leg up because they're willing to do. I don't know. Maybe it's their criminal history. Let's
I
move
don't know.
on.
Well, South
Because
Africa
if the
has criminal history as well.
so, well, so let's talk a little bit about the track. And I read somewhere, I think it was on your Bandcamp page, that Electric Ram, it was based in part of your personal observations on the inside of the white walls of the hospitals and during your recovery and your struggles with agoraphobia. And I remember, again, the first time I came across you, I went to your Bandcamp page and I read that, and I hadn't told you that my mother was a lifelong sufferer with agoraphobia, so I lived it my entire lifetime until she passed. So I know that struggle firsthand. So let me ask you, how are you? How's your recovery been? And how do you manage with that? Because you're the front man. I mean, you're the face of the band. And I know that must be in some way quite uncomfortable for you. So how do you manage that struggle of that, both having that affliction and having to be that large personality out in front?
it's a it's a weird. Okay, so, well, first off, I'm doing fine, thanks. And getting
Good.
into it more, I think it's a weird thing. It's always kind of there, and it goes through, it ebbs and flows to a degree. And the easiest answer to how to deal with it is medication. The right type
Mm.
of medication has been helping me a lot with this. But it started with my agoraphobia sprang from heavy PTSD, just due to living through some uh, really near-death experiences, like been uh, shot at a couple of times, nearly been blown up once or twice, which is, I know it sounds wild,
Mm.
but that's the kind of shit that's happened throughout life. And that's caused PTSD, and leaving that untreated pushed me into agoraphobia eventually, which is unfortunate. But, oh, wait, sorry. My
No, you're
phone
good.
just
You're
went.
good.
Yeah, cool. So, I mean, it's weird, uh, and it's a daily thing, you know. So I take it day by day. Sometimes I
Yeah.
uh, become a full hermit and I don't go out for 2 months, and it's not, it's not because I suddenly start hating people around me or whatever. It's just that I'm absolutely terrified of the
Yeah.
outside world. It's really weird. Um, but I do have medication that works towards it. I've got my wife that really helps me a lot. We've got our beautiful dog that also acts as a therapy companion and at least gets me out of the house to go for walks and stuff,
Got
so
to
that
walk the
kind of,
dog.
you got it. Then that's a fantastic. It's like a constant. I know I need to get up in the morning, and we need to at least walk the dog, and we need to go play with the dog, and that makes things easier. That in combination with uh, the right meds works, and then usually just also preparation time. Like I know when we need to go out for a tour, it's gonna be tough. So it takes me a
Mm.
couple good weeks of mentally prepping for this is how things are gonna go, making sure I have my meds with me, also making sure that my bandmates know that if this kind of thing goes down, this is the way you're supposed to be handling it, and they're all really stellar guys, and they helped me through it, and it's cool. And on this last tour, we didn't really have a big. We had one day in, I think it was Berlin, where I had a bad day, and I just couldn't move, couldn't get in the car or whatever, and they just coaxed me back into it, and that's really cool. Um,
Yeah.
but it's like little minor things that build up as well, and everyone knows the warning signs. So as it starts happening, people are like, okay, listen, we need to divert
Hmm.
your attention from this, we need to focus on this, and that kind of keeps it going. So the short answer is, meds and doing the right stuff, but the long answer is probably just a really strong network of friends and family that just keep the
Yeah.
wheels rolling, and they're all willing to deal with my uh, insanity. It's not insanity, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They're all willing to
No,
roll
I
with
know
me.
exactly. And unfortunately or fortunately, I know exactly what you mean. And
Hmm.
I think the answer for her, for my mom, was the same: was the right meds. It's like one day she discovered that, or like her doctor was like, "Hey, I think this drug Paxil can probably help you." And she was like, I was at basic training and she was homebound for years. And so I
Mm.
came back and all of a sudden she's like going to the store and walking around outside. And I'm like, who the hell is this woman?
Yeah.
And she, it was the modern pharmaceutical companies. They're evil, but they help a lot of people out of, and figure out ways to help manage this, these panic disorders. And, it's a genetic thing that she has passed on, thank you mom, onto me, where I have bouts of anxiety. And you're exactly right, understanding your triggers and telling the people around you, hey, here, if this starts happening, if I start going sideways, here's how you get me back, or here's
Hmm.
what not to do to exacerbate it, right, to make it worse. So, well,
Definitely do. That's such an important part of it. I mean, like I said, yes, the meds, obviously, but also you need people to understand how to handle it at the right time. And they have to also be willing to do it to a degree, to just be like, yeah. Because I never become um, absolutely impossible to deal with, like maybe once on a tour. But the rest of the time, it's fairly manageable, just as long as everything kind of flows the way it is. But it is something I'm still obviously going to be dealing with it for the rest of my life, and I am actively looking at ways of dealing with it more smoothly, because it does impact the amount of times per year that we can
Mhm.
tour. We do want to get out there all the time, but it is, it is also really taxing and tough, and I
Right.
don't want to be the guy keeping the band back. So
Yeah.
we're always kind of working on it, but it's an open discussion in the band as well. And luckily everyone's like I said, they're all great dudes and we get along really well, so we can have these open discussions and just be like, listen, you know this this is weird right now.
Yeah. Yeah. You talked about your dog. So Alex from We Kill Cowboys, she shared a video about her dog that looks exactly like my dog,
And like
and
mine,
like
we're like a
and like
triangle.
yours. So that's what she brought up. She was like, Johnny has a dog just like this that looks just like mine. So it's funny. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I think my wife is out walking him right now, but Bingo, I don't know what I would do without Bingo, my dog. So I hear you on that front.
100%. We don't deserve dogs, honestly. I feel they're just
I
too good.
agree.
And mine's called Frida. She's a beautiful, uh, well, I mean, I think she's a pit bull, but she's got some mix in her, but she looks like a pit bull, I guess. And that's a problem for people, not because there's any problems with her. She's really well behaved and just really happy to meet people all the time. But people have
Hmm.
that of it's a pit bull. So we're really focused on having her be as well behaved as possible. So like this
Hmm.
morning, me and my wife went to drop her off at it's like a sleepaway camp, but it's a training facility where she's passed a bunch of levels of training, but every now and then she goes and she stays there for like 2 weeks, and they work on some extra training. We also get
Hmm.
training that it stays on top of it.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so that bums me out that people have these weird hang-ups about dogs. And I'm like,
So I'll be honest. I did before I got one. So and
I guess
it wasn't.
if I guess it's easy enough to get into that mindset because that's kind of the way it's portrayed. It's shared
Hmm.
everywhere that they're these dangerous and aggressive animals and whatnot. But then you meet them and they're just happy to be around you, and they want
They're
to
house
be.
hippos.
Yeah, dude. And they just want to do everything to make their people happy. And that's why I think we've had conversations about this. It's like people are like, yeah, but these are the dogs they use for fighting. And I'm like, that kind of makes sense though, because I feel like my dog would do anything for me. If I told her to go fight
Right.
another dog now, she would probably do that. That would be horrible
Yeah.
if I did that, but that would be a reflection on me, not on the dog. The dog is just
Exactly.
trying her best to be the best.
Right.
Um, and that, yeah, kind of makes me sad. But
And
luckily,
I
she
find
won't ever see the inside of one of those horrible rings, so she's good.
yeah, yeah. I just can't believe that that's it. Well, I guess I can. Humans have done worse, right? And like you said, we don't deserve the loyalty and love that the dogs that we have show us. But yeah, I just think that one of the things, I think the lack of understanding of the breed, is that's where fear comes from, and so people don't understand. And I didn't understand it until I became very intimately involved with one, and then I did some research. Dalmatians are actually the most dangerous dogs per capita because I mean they bite more people than pit bulls.
Yeah, dude.
But yeah,
And again, with that, it also comes down to um, you have to understand what breed you have, and you have to work with them as well. I mean,
yeah.
she's an active dog, ours at least. So we walk her, and we play with her like 3 times a day, and she gets a lot of exercise, and then just some time to just chill outside as well. And that's important because if you've got a busy dog, they're gonna get
Mhm.
frustrated at some point, and it's not
Yep.
necessarily gonna translate into biting someone, but it might also, in
Yeah.
some cases. Because
Tearing shit up.
the other day I was reading an article about a pit bull here in South Africa that bit a child, and it was a real big problem, obviously, and it makes sense. Like you don't want a dog biting a child, But then in the article, as you're reading down, they're like, yeah, it was these two pit bulls, and they were kept in a cage outside for vaguely 2 weeks or something, and then one day, like after just rattling on the cage, it broke loose and they got out and they bit someone. And I was like, obviously not condoning the fact that they bit someone, but also why were they stuck in a cage for 2 weeks with no water and food? Like, I feel at that point I might bite someone, if I was stuck in a cage. Like, I kind of get it.
So tell me about the track,
Yeah.
Cement Brain. So when I got the vinyl, I obviously I listened to it end to end. That's my preferred media is vinyl. So I love it that you guys produce your stuff on it and provide access to it. So thank you. But when I heard the song for the first time, I was like, this is it. This track that it just really spoke to me. So is there any, tell me about it. How did it come about? What's it mean?
Well, I think lyrically on that album, it's one of the most blatant ones. I was stuck in a really bad loop at some point with the agoraphobia, but then with self medication, not using the proper methods of things, and it got me many a time stuck on stuff I should not have been stuck on. And I had a rare moment of clarity kind of coming out of that at some point. Like it's all the songs on that album kind of work in tandem with another song, So the one working in tandem with Cement Brain is Delirium Tremors, because Delirium Tremors is like all gone. Um, and lyrically it kind of reflects the same. And Cement Brain was like the gap in the middle where I'm like, got really fuzzy recollection of everything that's going on around me, and it's not great. And it's very much a conversation with myself, but also at the time a conversation with my wife, where it was just like, please just don't let that happen again. Like I can't be that far gone again. That's basically what it stemmed from. Was yeah, like the chorus line is like a verbatim thing that came out of my mouth once, where I was like, just don't let me go back. And it kind of built around that. That's kind of how my lyrics come out. Is sometimes it's just uh, blatantly whatever thought pops up in my head. Well, the feelings I'm having at that point, I just write them down, and then I embellish them with wizards and stuff sometimes, but it always has the same kind of thing going. Um, and,
I mean, the
and
bridge in that song is like I feel myself when I'm listening to it, and like I can feel it like build up, and then you just come in at the back end of that bridge with the guitars that just like want to
yeah,
squeeze something
so
hard.
so also in terms of that track, it's actually cool. So how the title and specifically that one lyric in the bridge where I'm singing that my head feels like it's full of cement, that actually came from a friend of mine, the bassist for Acid Magus, Rudolph, his lady Katya. She's really cool, and she's helped Ruff Majik um, lots over the years in terms of all sorts of stuff like visas and whatnot, and giving us uh, advice on how to do visas and all of that kind of stuff. And she's just a really cool lady, and we've always gotten along. And we were at their house for like a braai. I need to explain what a braai is just now, but let me just first get through this. So
Okay.
yeah, just remember. And we were having a conversation about this, and I was like, I'm having these. It's like I'm all right, but it's not 100% there. Like I'm having a struggle, kind of figuring out where things are in reality. And she was like, yeah, that's like, it feels like somebody dumped a bunch of cement in your head. And I was like, Cement Brain is such a fantastic song title. And it just stuck with me until I eventually wrote that song. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's it. This is the one. So it,
Yeah.
always kind of stick. And then I think the song itself was kind of formulated around the lyrics more than the lyrics were formulated around the song, which is not always how we do things, and that's I think also why it's got like a different thing to it. Because I started writing it and I was like, okay, it needs something, but just getting in there with like a heavy riff isn't going to do it. So I was like, yeah, maybe some piano, and and we'll have a bass line. That's it, and that was cool because it created some clarity until it gets heavy, and when it's heavy, it's really, it gives that kind
Really
of
sludgy.
release. It's got like this ebb and flow thing, which was really cool. And then when we got to uh, like the peak bits, it just seemed right to do the guitar harmonies, or the guitar harmonies, if
Yeah.
you will. It just it just happened. Like I started playing what I had envisioned at the first lead bit, and then Bezzy, our guitarist, was sitting down and he was like, maybe if it just harmonizes on this little bit here. And I was like, no, 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 it needs to harmonize on all of this. This is
Wow.
sounding fantastic. We need to combine them.
Oh, my head feels like it's full of cement, and I can't keep it above my shoulders no more.
Yeah, and that's basically it. Was really intuitive song. Like by the time we sat down to record it, it just went super fast. Like probably I think that one we recorded in 2 days. Like all the parts
Wow.
were done. It was really fast. And sometimes it just goes that way. Sometimes it takes you 4 months to get a song done. But sometimes the song just wants to exist, I think. And that happens.
So
Yeah.
you told me that you're going to produce another 2 records this coming year.
2.5.
2.5. You're right. 2.5.
Now, it's a
So
bit funny
how does that
because
happen? Like, I mean, so you're like 6 records, 6 albums deep already. You've been around since 2012. So that's about one every 2 years. But now you're going to accelerate that pace by a factor of 2.5. Are you just sitting on this much music in your head and you're putting it out there? Tell me, what's the plan for the 2.5 records?
I think that's the thing is there's a lot of stuff in my head and it needs to get out. Ideally, for Ruff Majik, we would love to just be knocking out like 2 albums a year every year,
Wow.
until we inevitably die with the heat death of the universe or whatever. But it's just not feasible because it's a lot of hard work. And getting people's schedules to work out, because you need to do that, but you also need to tour and you also need to be shooting videos and content and whatever. It's just too much. And we've kind of just been slowly building up stuff. And then we were like, yeah, that's cool. We can release one, and then we can release one a bit later and whatnot. And I was like, no, they're fresh now. Let's just release them. So we've got like 3 albums worth of material. But then I did that thing on Instagram where I was like, how many albums should we release? And people kind of sat somewhere between 2 and just make a black metal album. Or no, 3 and just make a black metal album. And I was like, all right, we'll split the difference. We'll make it 2.5, and we'll work some black metal into there. So I think that's basically what's happened. So yeah, so it will be coming out over the course of next year. We'll have the first thing dropping in April, and that's going to be a surprise to everyone. Like the singles are going to
Well,
start
not
coming
now
out, but
because you just said it on this.
no, no, no. What it's going to be is going to be a surprise to everyone. Not that it's coming out. Everyone, yeah. I mean, right now, this is true. This is the first time people are hearing that it's coming out in April, so there's an exclusive for you. But
Making news.
yeah, but people won't be expecting it, and even more so, they won't be expecting what's coming out after that, and that will be in August. And then we'll drop the point 0.5 other album in the rest of the year, and then at the beginning of next year, at the beginning of 2025, we'll have the rest of the half an album come out, and then
The
then
second
there's
part.
3 albums. Yeah,
Nice.
basically.
Are they all
It's
going to
gonna be cool.
vinyl?
Maybe it depends, and that's down to this whole surprise thing that I can't really, I can't
Okay.
divulge that. We might make it a vinyl. It would be cool, um, but potentially only 2 of them are going to be vinyl, and 1 is not going to be vinyl. But ideally, I would like
Okay.
them. But it's gonna probably I'll do small run vinyls though. So for the one that's coming out first, that might be small run vinyl. But then that also depends on how keen people are on it. Like if
Right on.
people get really, really super excited about it, then I'll just be like, yeah, we'll just do a regular vinyl run.
Well, I'm here for it all. As long as I'm like first in line for any vinyl.
You will definitely be notified.
Nice. So I want to be respectful of your time. I just want to talk about one last thing before I let you go, if that's okay.
Sure.
You know, you're a super generous guy. And so this isn't focused so much on the band or the music, but just you as a person. I remember, when you helped design, there's our logo.
Oh yeah.
That the Dingir Zoo logo. It's been through a couple modifications, but you sent that to me like out of the blue and was like, "Hey, I just want to thank you for what you've done." And I'm like, I I, I was going crazy. I like immediately texted the co-founder of the group, and I was like, "What? How do I respond back to this?" Like a band that I'm very, very good friends with, not a fan of, very good friend of.
That's it.
But like I didn't even know how to respond. Like my mouth was ajar. But it's not just that. Like you are constantly. So you mentioned Acid Magnus that you help support one of their tracks. You got dressed up for it as a alien of sorts. Um, you're always sharing the stuff of some of your fellow bands. It's funny when I recruited the Tasers into the group. They were like, "Oh, we love Ruff Majik. They're such nice guys. Johnny's such a great guy. We're super good friends with them." And they were like, loving on you. So I'm just curious, where that generosity comes from. Is that just does it come from a mentor, or how you were brought up, how you were raised? Can you just tell me about that?
So I would say it's how I was raised because my mom would love to claim that, I'm sure. But yeah, no, it definitely had an effect. I've, it's a, I don't know how to explain it really. It's a belief system, but not a religious belief system, right? So, it's the concept of good deeds for the sake of good deeds, not for the sake of personal gain, not for the sake of uh, divine reward, not for the sake of somebody patting you on the back and being like, "Oh, you're such a nice guy" or whatever. It's not about that. It's just I've been through this mission with the band for like really long, and we've been trying to make things work in a lot of ways. And then I find ways to make things work, and we get over there and we do things, and it's really cool. And then I see somebody else in a band that sounds really cool to me, and they're trying to do the same thing, and I'm like, shit, I have this info, I can give this to you. I mean, like how the thing with the logo for you happened was, um, I was working on some design stuff, and I was trying
Mm.
out a bunch of different stuff, and I was just on the page earlier that day, and I was like, this could benefit from like a really cool logo, and I just made a thing, and I was like, yeah, this, maybe they use it, maybe they don't use it, but it's I don't know how to explain. Um, it's in my head, it's not generosity, it's just it's a thing. It's like it's how I would want everyone to be. Basically, I
Yeah.
just want everyone to be having a good time and sharing stuff, and if you can do something for someone, do something for them, and just expect nothing from it. It's the you're just putting some good out into the world, and that should be enough, you know?
Yeah.
No,
Well,
like,
it's
because with
funny.
all,
Yeah. Go
sorry,
ahead.
yeah, I don't know
No,
what to
go ahead.
interrupt there. No.
No,
I was just
well,
gonna
I
say,
think it's funny
yeah, no,
that
you
that's
first.
kind of like what we're doing. Sorry, I'm interrupting. Well, I'm here in America, you're in South Africa. There's going to be a delay, right? So,
Definitely, yeah.
um, I was saying that, it's kind of like what our mission here in Dingir Zoo is. We claim that we're the only religion that doesn't take anything from you. We only give, and that is true. That our intention is to share the music of the bands that we uncover and discover and love, and but you embodying that as a person, and I just think it's serendipitous that of course Ruff Majik would be in Dingir Zoo, because that's you are who we are. So
But that's a great. I think it's just the right way to be a human. I think is what it
yeah,
is, and that's why I keep saying it. Like, I know, well, in terms of Danger Zoo, we're talking about it as a religion, obviously, but that's why I'm always saying is the way I view things or the way I do things is not for some form of religious dogma. Because I've had people being like, "Oh, that's um, like a very Buddhist trait or whatever," and I'm like, "No, it's not though, because even with Buddhism, you've got you're seeking enlightenment." Like,
right.
I couldn't give a fuck. I just want people to have it. No, really. I just
Yeah,
want people.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's just about having everyone have a good time and just kind of helping them along the way if you can, Because I don't think there
yeah.
is such a thing as enlightenment. I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm going to be an asshole for some reason, and
Mm,
someone's going to be like, oh, you know, and I'm going to be like, yeah, obviously, because you're a human and you're fallible and all those kinds of things happen. But any moment that I can do something good for someone, I will, 100%. And that's what it's all about for me. And
yeah,
seeing with
man.
you guys too, so we're on a good track here. You know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we should keep
Absolutely.
tabs on that, so we don't get marked as a cult by the feds or
Yeah.
something.
Well, if we were a cult, we're not. But
We're
if we
not.
were,
No, no, no.
we'd be like the coolest one out there because of what we do, and the people that I've got to experience and interact with throughout this journey of building this community has just been amazing. And more often than not, there are people like you who are, hey, we're all in this together, and what your time on your earth, on this earth, is how you spend it. You can spend it being an asshole, or you can spend it like, hey, like trying to elevate and give to others, and not because you're going to get something back, but because it's how we should probably be as people and humans. So I totally
And
get
that's the
that.
right way. And that's why I agree with you. I keep saying that the more I run into people, the more people share the same mindset, of the most fantastic time when we're touring, always because this is what bands are like, They're all just like, yeah,
Yeah,
because yeah, everyone's just these nice people, and I'm like, yes,
yeah.
this is it. This is what this is what I want for the world.
This is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So, Johni, this has been an amazing discussion. I'm sure you and I could talk for hours. One day, hopefully soon, you and I will get to meet in person. We're gonna have to make that happen. Um, but I appreciate your time, and you've been, I won't use the word generous. You've been very giving of yourself and the transparency of giving all the background on Ruff Majik and the music and yourself. I'm truly grateful for it, and I'm grateful that you're part of the community and you continue to produce that great, sweet rock that we get to put out there for people to hear.
Dude, yeah. Well, again, thanks so much for having me, and I really enjoyed the conversation. And yes, longer chats next time would be great. Um, and yeah, we're gonna keep making music, and I'm gonna keep telling you about it. So,
And I'm going to keep pushing it.
Okay, sick.
All
We got a
right.
deal.
Well, all hail Dingir Zoo, Johni Holiday from Ruff Majik.
Do we wait just 1 second though? Do we have a different sign? You know, because it's a new thing. Is this still the all hail, or should there be like a different thing?
Oh no, yeah, all hail. Well, I mean, I do it backwards or forwards. I try to get the tattoo.
Oh,
in,
I don't have one of those. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'll get one at some point.
What, dude? I mean, don't blow my mind because I would like freak the hell out.
Dude, I love getting tattoos. I don't know. You've never maybe seen this. This is a Slayer tattoo.
Oh, nice.
I got that at a. Oh, I need to tell you this real quick before I leave because I told you that I had a conversation at a braai. Just remember this because it's going to come up more frequently the more you speak to South African bands. A braai is a barbecue, but it's not a barbecue. It's better than a barbecue. So remember that because every South African you ever speak to is going to tell you the exact same thing. It's not a barbecue. It's essentially the exact same thing, but we will tell you it is better than a barbecue because it is. All right, so remember.
I can't wait to go to my first braai.
You have to. It's going to be amazing.
May the oceans wash the sin from my tongue before my final bell is rung. May the rivers rinse the blood from my hands, and I hope my mama understands.
I didn't mean to hurt no man, I didn't mean to lay him out on the land. So bless this body full of holes, and may the Lord have mercy on this soul.